like to leave the space for some questions. Thanks again for those who took that time from their day, especially the people in Europe. Send us your questions by email if you cannot stay with us for another few minutes. And I'm going to give it back to Akshat to see if we have any questions. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Fadi. And we do already have our first question, which is, it's a question basically about whether or not we have plans to expand the database with new materials, and particularly non-metallic materials.
Yes, of course. And that's why I was trying to be very honest and very specific in my presentation today. Our database, January 2024, will focus on metals simply because of the amount of materials that we've tested. After that, we will definitely expand into some other materials that are non-metallic for some other applications, including composites and polymers. But for now, for 2024, it will focus on metallic materials, especially for the transportation sector.
Okay. A second question that we have is about the MI testing and database. Is there a round robin you can share between our old generated data through Aramis and the latest data with your homegrown software?
With the database in particular, that might be difficult because when we started this project, we took every single thing from our sensors. However, what could be done is we take the images from our sensor and we process it with the Aramis software to compare between the two. Now, I can tell you a prediction, of course, they're going to match, but we are more than happy. That's a very good point. And we can definitely do that with our images and we process them with the two softwares. That's very possible.
Okay. Next question. It's about file compatibility for the software. So basically, what kind of files does the software produce and what kind of files can be imported and processed?
Right now, the software can work with any images, normal formats for DIC, and you can load them just like if you work with other DIC systems, exactly the same way. We cannot accept file formats, we can just accept images. As for data, of course it accepts force data as CSV data, no problem. But from a file format perspective, we just accept the images. If it's a 3D, of course, you cannot do it because we have our own calibration. And by the way, since I'm talking about calibration and 3D DIC, we have a surprise for those people who work with 3D DIC and they're really tired of calibration with panels. We have a new calibration technique and therefore a new calibration procedure for 3D DIC or 3D DIC. But anyway, back to the question, images. We can accept any images.
The next question, very interesting one, is about HER. And I'm going to actually mix the two questions. The first question is about HER testing on hot rolled samples. Have you tried any? And do you have any case studies to show? Second part of the question would be, in an HER, do you also measure the deformation?
Sure. I'm going to start with the second question. No, with HER, we don't measure the deformation because we communicated with so many of our customers and nobody mentioned that they need this DIC of the HER test, so we don't do it. We just give you the HER. The first question, have we done it on HR or hot rolled and whatever, versus cold rolled and what grades? The answer is every single test in our database covers all kinds of steel grades, all kinds of aluminum, sometimes actually more than one particular grade. For example, the DP980, I can just count it in my head, but we have more than 10 versions of DP980 that you will find data for it. Tension, HER, bulge, whatever it is. Basically, every material we can get our hands on, we take it, we test it, we add it to our database. So HER, HSLAs, or even FB and so on, any HR cold rolled material, hot rolled material, we should have at the very least one set of data for one variety or one variation from that material. For example, FB steels are really difficult to get our hands on it. So I know that we have like an FB 580 or something like that. I think we have one or two. DP980, DP 600 or 590, we have plenty of data to provide, let's say. PHSs, limited, but in general, HSLAs, mild steels, of course, advanced high strength steels, level 1 or generation 1. We have a good bit of the third gen steels and some of the second gen steels. But in general, if you just scan through a banana chart, every single bubble, every single grade within the bubble, we have representation. At least one up to, I think in one case, which is DP980, we have about 10 or so.
All right. Next question. Do you have to be a current customer to access the database? And how will you access it?
Yes, the database is technically a paid service. We will release more details about the accessibility. But certain elements of the database will be open for all to provide basically an example of what kind of data you're dealing with. For sure, one of the most popular materials that everyone's interested in is DP980, so you can expect to see our sample of database that will be released to everyone is DP980, one of the DP980s.
Okay, thank you, Fadi. Next question is a very important question about the confidentiality and privacy. So the customer is asking, if we provide a sample for test results and do not want our data to be the part of the database, how do you address that?
No test that we perform under my testing. You send us a material today, you ask us to do a certain test, whatever it is, tension, whatever. None of that data even makes it to the database. None of it. Actually, we don't even ask you for permission because we don't want to do it. So there's a clear separation between my testing, whatever you get, and my database. My database is tested our way and for that particular purpose for my database. My testing, it really doesn't matter whether it's a small project or big project, whether it's a confident, whether it's a development material or commercial material. If you're a customer, one of our current customers, and let's say you just bought DP780 and you said, Fadi, go ahead and test it for us, and you paid for that service, it's your data, we don't touch it. And we don't even confuse that with the database. So everything that you see and you will see on the database side is technically our material, our testing for a separate purpose.
We still have a lot of interesting questions, but it's already 12:01.
So let's continue, Akshat, a little bit. Like I said, people who are definitely interested to stay, we will stay a few more minutes, and people who need to disconnect, I just want to remind everyone that there will be a recording for the entire event, and we will post it on the website sometime next week. So go ahead, Akshat.
The next question is about fracture strains. So Lee asks, how about getting strain data beyond the point of UTS? It's important for simulation, and how would you present it?
That's exactly what we present as fracture strains. We give you those points all the way post UTS, all the way to the fracture point. How is the data presented? You get the raw data up to the UTS when it comes to the true stress strain curve, but you get extrapolations beyond that that you could use or actually not use. We get you all the fracture strains post UTS simply coming from the optical sensor. And on top of that, we give you fits. So addressing the strains after the UTS is already done automatically with these different approaches.
Okay, thank you, Fadi. Next question is, will you accept requests for new and custom database materials to add them to the database?
Let me answer this question, even though this is technically level 2 or 3 of the database. Our vision for this database is to become literally the go-to place for everyone to put their data in. Level 1, or this phase, we want to control the data, we own the data, and we test it at our own expense and we put it there. But in the future, we would like to work with steel suppliers, aluminum suppliers, other suppliers of materials to find a mechanism so that we can accept materials, but they must go through our testing and will be added to the database, but that will be a separate level where we can where we can basically blend it together. The reason I said this is level 2, because this is a little bit ahead and it involves some complexities. I want to clarify something about level 1, or this phase that we're starting with this current database. Whatever steel we're going to present, and whatever aluminum and whatever titanium we're going to present in the database is totally concealed. We never say where it came from. We never say who produced it. We never say anything about it. Because the main purpose of this database is not really to promote one company over the other. No. The whole idea is to present all the data so that the user can get this cloud of data and be unbiased about it. But we know the evolution of this. Ultimately, users want to know which material is the better of the DP980s, which material is better of the 780s or whatever it is. That is level 2. There we have to worry about the issue of confidentiality, and then we have to request permission that if you want to provide us with your material, you want to put it on our database, you want to, for example, again, showcase your material, you've developed a new DP980 that is off the chart, that will be added under level 2, and with permissions and with basically explicitly saying that this is the material and this is the coating and this is the mill that it was produced by. And I hope this answers this question. So in short, yes, we will accept this stuff, but not in level 1, level 2, but we must test the material. We want to stay true to this nature of this database, that it's unbiased. So if you generate the data, that's great, but we will not put the data as is. We need to run it through our data generating machine.
Okay, thank you. The next question is about the new enhanced MI testing. So the question is, we have always come to Fadi AMT for standard tests, and we have DIC systems in our own lab. However, we always struggle to do custom tests. So what kind of resources or help will the new product line provide to us?
Wow, I think it's amazing how today all the questions are really things that are really super important, and we thought about them and we thought we shouldn't even talk about them because this is way ahead, but it's actually so relevant. So I'm super happy to hear these questions, including this question. When it comes to my resources, when we said in our video, we know your pain, we truly mean it. I always say it, most of our customers that come to us have the IC systems and they have testing machines, but they need the support and the help. Our new vision for my testing is that if you come to us and you have basically if we're working with you, our level of support will go so much, and we will clarify it with specific examples and specific basically statements. How far we're going to go to support you, we're going to go to limits that are really unheard of before. We're going to go to the limits in terms of supporting you, especially if you're using our software and hardware. I'm going to give you a simple example because this is in our thoughts. HER is a perfect example. We don't want to just ship a software and a hardware and say like this is how it works and whatever it is. We will work with you on development projects that if you are dealing with a difficult material or a difficult situation or even a situation that is really unique to you, but it's of technical interest, we will support you. FLC, the same thing. You're pushing the boundaries with fracture testing. You're pushing the boundaries with high rate testing. We will support to new levels, and please allow us to clarify this in our future statements about my resources and how far we can go. And we encourage people with these kind of situations to give us a call, definitely. This is the whole idea of this release today. The whole idea of the release is to spit it out and say that we're doing all this stuff. If you're thinking about certain things before 2024, call us and let's interact together, and we will try to address these questions and these, let's call it custom projects, whatever it is. Because I want to highlight one thing that I mentioned earlier. We're still technical people. We're interested in challenges. We don't want to keep doing the same thing. We want to improve and we want to help. So this is definitely part of our material insights. We want to put it all together and include it, and we want to expand what we used to do before.
Great. Thank you, Fadi. The next question is basically, will there be an opportunity to try out the sensor and the software before purchasing it, or a trial
Of
version
course.
of the software, for example?
Of course. The whole idea of my lab, which is our lab here, our humble lab here, is we don't actually encourage anybody to buy the software or the hardware without coming here. And if you cannot come physically, connect remotely. We have every single machine that is relevant to this testing. We have multiple sensors. We have, of course, the tracker. You can't come here. We will set up and show you how we do it. If you can come, it's even better. You can demonstrate, we can demonstrate everything to you. You can come and feel the sensor. In fact, you can bring your materials under my lab. You can bring your material, cut the samples, come here. We will give you a slot of time with our engineer, and we will show you how we do it from A to Z. And you just have to sit and watch and even interact with them and live this experience, because there's no other way for you to appreciate, honestly, the power of the software and the hardware. And like I said, all of this stuff will be enabled in 2024. You can come to the lab anytime. And there are several ways to do it. In fact, just to answer this question even further, we have several demo units. We have already contacted our friends and colleagues who are doing material testing, and we told them we're going to ship them the systems so that they can help us further refine it, discover issues and whatever it is. So just call us. We might send you a system, and we would be happy to send you a system with the software so that you can play with it for a couple of weeks and see how you feel about it. We want you definitely to do that, basically.
Hey, thank you, Fadi, for the excellent answer. The next question is about, again, my database. And this is coming from a metallurgist. He asks, it would be great to see microstructural data along with the physical properties that you have shown on the database. Do you have any plans on adding the microstructural data?
Great point. The answer simply is not yet. Simply because of the resources and amount of work that it's going to take. However, this is not out of the scope of what we can do. Every single thing that was tested is still here, and we keep it. And we will certainly consider what could be an efficient, practical way to do this. It's an important point, definitely. But the answer for now is no, not yet.
All right, thank you. Next question. Will we be able to make direct comparisons between different materials within the database?
Absolutely. Let me just give you a quick snapshot. Everyone is familiar, I think, with the banana chart for steels. A banana chart is conventionally, let's say, tensile strength. X-axis is ductility. Just think of it like this. Think of it that you can change the X-axis and the Y-axis to anything and everything. Anything that's included in the database, whether it's a true fracture strain, local strain 1 millimeter versus 5 millimeter, global nominal strain, HER, FLC, you can literally change the X-axis and the Y-axis as you see fit. You can actually cross boundaries. You can put the X-axis as the nominal tensile ductility of the material based on tension test, and you could put the Y-axis, the biaxial fracture energy, and you will get it for every single material.
Next question is, will the database be able to provide statistics on mechanical properties for a selected grade?
Absolutely. Very important point. The reason we chose not to put a single point representation, let's say, of a DP980 within the bubble that says dual phase steels, because we know and we agree with this question, it's not enough. We've tested hundreds of materials, including teens of DP980, none of them is on top of each other. So, with our database, when you look at DP980, especially if it's coming from, let's say, 12 different types of DP980. Each one of them, just on the tension level, is tested 9 times. 3 RD, 3 DD, and 3 TD. That's 9 by 12, 100 points just for DP980. You can look at the cluster, you can get all kinds of data, including the statistical deviation. And you can even click on every single point and see which particular DP980 that is. Of course, we're not going to tell you again whether it's from this supplier or that supplier. Right now, it says DP980 1, DP980 2, 3, 4, 5. But then you can see whether all the DP980s are accumulating on top of each other, or spreading out this way, or spreading out that way. And then you can bring your own data and say, okay, you're a steel supplier. My DP980, does it fit in the center, or is it drifting to the right, or is it drifting to the left? So the answer is yes.
Okay, next question. It says, instrumented hole expansion below 20% is a challenge since you do not see the fracture surface. So I think the question is basically, are you able to deal with that situation, and how do we deal with it?
Sure. And this answer actually is not only for the HER, for every single material test that we're covering with the database and so on. Nothing is going to be pushed out in January 2024, nothing, without extensive testing. So you can imagine the amount of testing that we're going through right now. Can I tell you right now that our HER module can stop every single material, every single sample, right on the dot? No. But what I can tell you is this. We've tested, 80 grades of steel, multiple samples, at least for every grade, every version, we've tested 12 times. 6 plus 6, I think, or 8 plus 8, Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless, it's more than 10 pieces. 80 grades, and sometimes the same grade is repeated 2 or 3 times. All that information is run through our artificial intelligence model. We test, evaluate, take some more data, recalibrate the model. So our model is really pretty good, but we're trying to improve it more. And for those challenging materials, you should be able in January 2024 to call us and say, okay, Fadi, share with us an example of a test that you did for, let's say, DP, or not DP, MS 1500. That's a high strength steel. That's really not very ductile. And that's the beauty of my database. It's our data. We're not sharing with you confidential data from a customer. It's our data. So we will be able to say, here's a video. Or we will tell you, let's say you're interested in MS 1500. Send us a sheet. Let us just play with it in our lab and show you, share with you the results. And if it doesn't work, we are okay with that, because that's what we want. We want the interaction. We want to make the system better, and we will do that. For HER in particular, the AI model, as you guys know, AI models think like human beings. So you can technically tweak them. And again, I don't want to talk too much about it because we have a presentation in October, but let me throw it out there. Our AI model is not one model, it's actually multiple models. We have what we call a conservative model, neutral model, and loose model. So we have plans also to come up with custom models that will cope with certain materials from a certain customer. If all what you're producing is super high strength, low ductility steels, the right thing to do is not to use the generalized model. Could be just we develop a specific custom model for you and send it with your sensor to fit with your materials and so on. So, but the short answer is definitely yes. We're going to try to address everything, and at the same time we're going to show evidence that it's working. Not, here's the sensor, buy it first and then check it out and it doesn't work and then you start calling us. No, we don't want to do that. This is the beauty of us having the tools, the machines. We're a testing lab. We do this every day. And with the database, we are forced to run our model through a cascade of materials from different backgrounds or different sources and different responses.
Okay. We have a follow-up question to the same my sensor, specifically the HER module. The question is about the compatibility of the system. So do you operate the HER device independently of the press device? Because you need to put need an output cross connection between both the optical and the press hardware.
Absolutely. Basically, the two are connected together. It's a very simple connection. We've tried it with our press. We have an interlocking press if you're interested in that. And even if you work with any other formability machine, we will help you with that. But the essence of it is very simple. All what our sensor needs, nothing more than a BNC cable going from our sensor to your machine. And if your machine software or controller accepts a trigger, which any system should do that, all you have to do is nothing. Set up your recipe for the test as you do always. Let our sensor take control completely. You just need to put the sample, of course, and close your machine and whatever it is, and let it go. Our system will take care of everything. The press will start moving according to the recipe that you fed that press or the formability machine. And when the crack is detected, our machine is going to send a signal to the press to stop it and retract it, exactly like the video that we showed.
Okay. Thank you, Fadi. It seems we are leveling out on the questions. Just one last comment from Daror. He says, how about the dark surfaces from hot rolled or unpickled surfaces? Because they are tricky or zinc coated surfaces, they also have reflections.
Oh, you mean on the HER?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Very good point. HER testing in the demo that we showed you, the HER software will basically go to a certain auto exposure. Okay? But obviously, like this gentleman or this person mentioned, sometimes you cannot predict how bright or dull the surface is. And if the material is really dark, it will lead to, let's say, bad end of the test. So what we always say is, let us just handle that. We have an auto exposure option that lets you run this for these difficult materials only, lets you run the HER test to the end. And if the surface is so bright or so dark to the point that it's really affecting the predictions of the model, it will come back the second way around and it will adjust to cope with this, to try to resolve this problem. But we can definitely share data that shows a diverse number of materials that are zinc coated, hot rolled and pickled, which means not coated, and they're really dark and sort of rusty or whatever, ugly. And of course we have very shiny surfaces, cold rolled, sometimes high quality sort of coating. We can share results with all kinds of levels of surfaces. And again, if there's a specific grade or specific material that is a little bit extreme, if we haven't gone through it, we still have, and we're trying to even develop more robust tools to deal with it. So that's something that I think we can address.
We have a nice comment saying, I've done thousands of HER tests and your system looks very promising. So thank you so much for that comment. And I'll request Fadi to wrap up of today's sessions after that.
Cool. On that comment, Akshat, of course, we thank you for that comment. And we tell you, please attend our webinar in October, which is about HER testing. We're going to, of course, take it step by step. And we're going to show, actually, for all these people who asked us about the HER in particular, the first webinar in October, we're going to show you this material, that material, that material, that material, so that you can definitely see it and ask us more questions about it. So, again, I appreciate you guys staying with us 20 minutes over the time. And I appreciate everyone, even the ones who left because they had to go back to their work. It's a special day for us. We're so happy that we can talk about Material Insights. We have so much more to come. Please keep an eye on our website, our LinkedIn posts, our emails that we send out for these events. And please continue to send your comments, questions, challenges. Nothing is perfect. We still have a lot of hard work to do to just put all of this stuff out in a few months. But we're excited, we're ready, and we want your interaction with us. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you very soon.